Welcome, welcome to the Veterans Growing America podcast. I am your co-host, Coach Ariel Simmons. I'm here with my illustrious co-host, Donnell Johns, and we have this is the first time, we got a couple of special guests for you today. We have Patricia and Lily. They are the co-owners of Likha Kawayan. And if I didn't say that, y'all tell me how bad I swung and missed. But I
Pretty
think
good.
I'm close. How y'all doing, young ladies? How y'all doing?
Good.
Look, so my audience doesn't know, but we want to know from both of y'all, even though I'm going to ask this question to Lily, we would just want to learn a little bit about both of you guys. But Lily, first, I need you to start out by telling how you're connected to the military and a little bit about your background. And Patricia, you do the same.
So I have been married to my husband for, going on 19 years. And he was in the military when we first got married, but he ended up getting out due to medical injuries after about 7 years. He originally wanted to go the whole 20 years, but it looks like that's not how it was going to go. So here we are. And it was while my husband was in that I realized that starting a business was just a better solution than getting a job every single time we moved, especially because I learned the hard way that salaries tend to match cost of living. So moving from DC to North Carolina was quite eye-opener. So Patricia and I decided to start a business together. And since then, we've had many, many businesses. And the one we're talking about today is obviously the one that we recently started along with our father, who is going through his second act of life, which is the Likha Kawayan, selling the bags made of bamboo directly from the Philippines.
Patricia, you want to tell a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I have been following Lily around, and when Ronaldo was not around, I would take his place, taking her to appointments and all that other fun stuff, because why not? And I got my first corporate job right out of college and almost burned out in less than a year, right around the time that Lily was finding out that staying employed, deeply employed as a military spouse is sometimes easier said than done. So that's when we decided we would just create our own opportunities and go into business together. So it's been 15 years that we've been doing this. And my dad decided, what would be fun if you guys did something else with me? Because why not? So here we are.
That's awesome. And if the audience doesn't know, the reason why they look alike is because they were born at the same time. It's a part of something like that. They're twins.
Sometimes I forget until we're out in public and people are like, you look exactly like, I know, thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your influence into entrepreneurship. Like, how did you get into entrepreneurship?
So for us, I definitely think it was very much just something that happened, right? A lot of people will say, I wanted to be an entrepreneur my whole life. We didn't. I was on my path to being a lawyer until that didn't work out. And so we were just like, what can we do to make money that isn't a 9-to-5 job? And that was how we landed into entrepreneurship. And for the first 4 or 5 years, we kind of just stumbled around and tried a bunch of different things. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that we finally landed on website design, and we did that for a long time. So yeah, a lot of our time in entrepreneurship has really been just figuring things out as we go. We've had some local resources that have helped us, and there are a lot of programs that are targeted towards military spouses and entrepreneurship. So we've tried to take advantage of those as best we can, but now most of it has been trial and error.
No, I love that. I love that. And I know you said trial and error, but was there a specific inspiration that inspired you guys to start this business?
The newest one?
Yeah.
My father. So our father retired to the Philippines. It's been years. I think like it was even before the pandemic. That's why we hadn't seen him in so long. And he had decided to do the business with the bags in order to help the neighborhood, to help them bring in more money, and to keep a traditional craft going. And at first he was just trying to do it by himself, but then he came to us and he was like, I really want some help to get it into the American market. And we found Donnell and we're like, hey, perfect timing, because we're not very knowledgeable products at all. Okay. We've been all services until now. So it's definitely something that's a bit scary for us in more ways than one. We were like, hey, this is perfect timing. I guess this is really what we're supposed to do. Finding VJ was really just another thing that we were like, we could probably do this, right? We could probably figure this out with the help of people who've done it before.
Oh, that's awesome. How about you, Patricia?
We originally started out as more of a family business because our sisters were involved, and that didn't work out quite so well. And I have to admit, I was a little nervous about starting a business with my dad because I get flashbacks of having him tutor me in school, and it was not great. But he came to visit earlier this year, and he's like way more chill than he used to be. So I'm like, okay, maybe we can make this work.
Nice, nice.
Hey, I want to talk a little bit about the bags. Let's talk about the bags, your unique business proposition. Tell us about the bags and what makes them so unique.
When I was first starting this business with my dad, I went onto Etsy to try and look at like comparable bags, right? And the first few bags that I found, they'll be like $20, $30. But then I know how to Google reverse an image, right? I'm not sure everybody does, but as soon as you do that, you can see that these bags are off of Temu or like Alibaba or any of these like cheaper sites. Us, on the other hand, if you go on our website, you can actually see behind the scenes footage of people manually making these bags from scratch. So that's the difference with our bags and some other bags that you may see, is that ours are handmade and they are high quality, which is not easy to find these days because everything is mass produced. And then you add that to the fact that our dad decided to name a lot of the bags after his grandchildren and his children, which just adds a personal touch to it. So yeah, I think it's really a family business. And like I said, the fact that we're able to keep this craft going and we're able to put some money back into the neighborhood, which is always a good thing. I think, we hope the people who want to support us, because the bags are nice, but also that we do have this story that we're trying to help the community out as best we can.
So when we talk about business, right, people only see the product, but they don't see the behind the scenes, what goes on in business. And this question is really about what challenges have you faced in business, not just this business, but any business. And then how did you overcome it?
For me, I would definitely say it is people don't believe me when I say this, but I'm very much an introvert and I don't like public speaking or talking to people in general. When it comes to things like this, I will always have to not tell myself to cancel right up until it's time for the interview, and then it goes and I'm fine. So for me, it's definitely that, right? It's stepping out of my comfort zone. It's being able to talk to people about what I do. It doesn't come easily to me. And I think a lot of people don't know that because of the personality that I have when I do things like this. But I'm like, yeah, it's not something that comes natural to me. And so having to do things that are out of my comfort zone, whether it's that or trying to figure out products after all this time, you're constantly having to do things that you're not necessarily good at. Like we were discussing earlier, like it's easy to just not do things because you think you're going to fail. But if you never try, you're never going to succeed. And so that's something that I've had to work on, is going for things, even if I may not succeed, and at least trying, because I'm so used to things going easily that when they don't necessarily come easily, you're tempted to give up. And so that's definitely, I think, something that I've had to work on.
And Patricia, what type of challenges have you faced in the entrepreneurship world?
I think the biggest thing is knowing when it's time to keep going versus when it's time to stop digging. Because sometimes you're like, but I've already been doing this for so long, but it hasn't been working. So why are we still doing it? Versus saying, I want to do this thing and it hasn't paid off yet. Okay, but how long have you actually been doing it, or what have you consistently done before you write off this thing? So I feel like when you're running a business, there's always trying to figure out which position you're in, whether you need to lean in a little bit harder or whether you need to just pivot a little, or whether it's time to burn it and start over. And I think a lot of people get scared by the idea that it might just be time to start over. And me and Lily have done that multiple times during our journey. And honestly, it was probably easier because we had each other to lean on and we had our husbands' paychecks to support our ventures. There's that. But it's hard to take yourself out of it and honestly be like, if somebody else came to me and said, I've been doing this and it's not working, but I think if I just go a little bit longer, it'll probably turn itself around. Would you be telling them they should keep going, or would you be telling them, I think it's time to cut your losses and move on? Because it's not always so easy to step back from like your business and be able to get that point of view where you can decide whether you should keep going or if it's time to just call it quits.
No,
that's really.
I get that. Some of the times I always tell people, sometimes you just got to keep going. That the direction, the goal may be the same. The direction that you go in can be totally different. Like you're on your way to the store and there's traffic. You're still on your way to the store. You just got to figure out a way around the challenges that you face.
No, that's a really good analogy too. And I think about some of the challenges that I've had to face, and you get this Like when you make the plan, you like dead set on where you need to be. Then you all of a sudden have to make these adjustments, not realizing that the small adjustments, like you say, the long way around it, put you right back where you needed to be. I think that's one of the very unique things about business. But let me ask you guys, really based on some of these concepts, if somebody was starting their business today and they needed some advice, what is some advice that you would give them as they are going into their journey of entrepreneurship? I'll start with you first, Lily.
So for me, it's definitely know the basics, right? Like we have talked to a lot of business owners, whether it's through networking or through mentoring or anything like that. And you would be amazed how some people cannot answer the most basic questions about their business. When we were still website designing, someone came to us and said, okay, I'm going to start this business running tours. And I said, okay, how are you going to take payments? How are you going to schedule tours? I don't know. I said, you got to have all these questions answered before you do anything else. And especially when you're doing something. So website design is something we fell into because we were good at it. It's just something that came naturally to us because our father also worked with computers, but it's not something we love. But when you're talking about somebody, say, who crochets and decides to start a business where they sell their crochets, they're only thinking about the thing that they love and not everything else that comes along with being a business owner. And so sometimes they're only set on, as long as I can sell this stuff, I'll be fine. But you have to know those other things in order to make those sales. And so I think too many business owners, they skip right past the basics and do all the things that they think they need to be doing, like social media and a website. But if you don't have the foundations, all of that stuff is just a waste of time, honestly. And I think that too many people get caught up in the shiny things and don't focus enough on the basic foundational things. And then later, they're there a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and realize I never answered any of those questions that I should have answered in the first place. And when you're building on a broken foundation, eventually it's going to come down. How fast or how
Oh,
slow
yeah.
depends on you, but that's going to be the eventual result.
That's good. How about you, Patricia?
I honestly, and this has come up, like Lily said, we've done some mentoring with like newer entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I always tell them is that it is never too early to set boundaries with people, because I was like, you wanted to go into business for yourself so you could have some sort of control over what you're doing. But if you don't set boundaries with people, like all you're going to do is create a job for yourself without a steady paycheck, because then you're just answering to these people. And at that
Right.
point, you're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore, because if I wanted to be answering to somebody all the time, I'd at least get a regular paycheck and health insurance and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? Like I had somebody, she wanted to start a business, and I was like, do you have a contract? And she's like, I can't ask people to sign contracts. I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you absolutely can. And you absolutely should. Because I was like, and even if you don't have time, obviously I'm not a lawyer, but even if you don't have a lawyer, at the minimum, be like, this is what you're paying me for. This is what I'm delivering to you. And just to make sure everybody's on the same page, because you'd be surprised at how much goes unsaid and how much. But I thought, okay, but we didn't agree on that. But I also didn't specify that. So it's a little bit on me and a little bit on you. And then the whole process just gets so out of control. I always tell people, like, even if you're brand new, like, you can set these boundaries with people. Like, you can. And you can always loosen your boundaries. That's true. But we've found it's easier to have tight boundaries and then relax them than to not have them in the beginning and then try to bring people in as things kind of start becoming chaotic. So I was like, yes, by all means, have a contract or terms of service or whatever you want to call it, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page about what you're bringing to the table and about what they're bringing to the table and what's expected of everybody, right? Because that protects everybody. So we know this is how I'm going to hold you accountable, because you told me you do X, Y, and Z, and then you didn't do any of those things.
No, that's really good. That's like why in my business, I'm always specific in asking the client, what do you expect to get out of me? Because that's going to be the deliverable. What do you expect to get out of me? For product is easy. Hey, I want a shirt with a hood on it.
Right.
It's black with writing on it. It's a large.
Right.
Easy. Service is a little bit different. So you have to be specific. What are the deliverables that I can actually ensure that you get when I'm setting this up? That's like a great point. So I'm going to go to another question though, turning the corner a little bit. So people are always in their businesses and they find themselves really being, instead of business owners, they're more of self-employees. They'll find themselves doing the accounting and doing the website and doing too many things. But essentially, when you get into a business, you have a superpower. So I want to ask you guys, what is your superpower as an entrepreneur?
I guess mine is looking happier than I am in situations. because it makes it easier for me to be able to network. Because I will admit, it's been difficult for me because since me and Patricia have really chosen to work with the military community, I tend to be the face of the company because when we had to do interviews or that one time we actually got on a news show, like it has to be me. It wouldn't make sense for it to be her. And so I think my superpower is just that I'm able to think on my feet in these moments and make it work, which
Mm.
honestly is the core of being an entrepreneur is working around these challenges and doing the thing that you have to do. And also, again, as a military spouse, it's when you find out that you're not going to Texas, you're going someplace else, and you get a week notice, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So to me, being able to adjust to situations on the fly and figure things out, especially when there's a camera on you, I think has been one of the things that has really worked out the best for me. And it's unexpected because I wouldn't have thought when I first started this journey that would be one of the things that I'm best at. Apparently, I'm better at it than I think.
That's really good. What about you, Patricia? What's your superpower?
The problem solving, because I do that a lot for ourselves, for our clients. And I think it's one of those things I don't give myself enough credit for, honestly, until somebody says something to me. And then I'm like, oh, you just need to do this and this. And they're like, how'd you know that? I'm like, how'd I know what? And they're like, how did you know that? I was like, oh, because I was like, oh, do you actually want me to explain it? Because I can explain it, or I can just tell you that I figured it out. And they're like, that's like most people can't do that. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just how
Yeah.
I've always been.
And that's really good because you find the ultimate entrepreneur in a person who can solve a problem. Because essentially, if you can solve a problem, then you can create a business because that's all problem businesses are is solutions to problems. Hey, I need something to put this stuff in. Well, I
Right.
have purses. You know, that you're ultimate problem solver. So when you have the superpower of being a problem solver, that is the ultimate superpower to have in business. That's really good.
And I'm better at solving everybody else's problems except my own.
Yeah. I'm the same way. So like my superpower, and I have kind of two superpowers, but one of them is problem solving, but the other one is simplifying complicated things. And so
Mm.
that's why what I try to do is use myself as a translator in between something that is very technical and then helping somebody out that is trying to functionally understand what's happening. I try to be the translator of those things, and that's kind of what I do with finances because finances are tough for some people because a lot of the fundamentals are complicated. But what I try to do is simplify it, tell stories, and I've done that from like rewinding back and writing children's stories and using some of those children's stories, parts of those children's stories to explain it to adults. And you'd be surprised how a complicated thing becomes so simple to people when you explain it to them like a third grader, but not insulting anyone's intelligence, but essentially all of the military manuals are written at a third to fifth grade level. So that's what made me think if you simplify it, anybody can understand it. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I got that from. But yeah.
I want to answer the superpower question too. Y'all in here,
What is your superpower?
I know, and this is not even about me, but I feel like a superhero.
I think
No,
I know
but-
what your superpower is, but I want to hear it from you though.
So I believe my superpower is building community and building relationships.
Yep,
I didn't even say that.
your ultimate connector. Yep.
Honestly, from the first time that I saw Donnell, like when I connected with him and when I started seeing him at events, I was like, the energy that this dude brings, like whether he's talking to one person or 50 people or whatever, his energy is always like all the way up here. And it's hard to be around somebody who has that level and not want to be that same level as him. I think being around, you're like, okay, like I said, I want to be more like Donnell. I think a lot of people meet him and think, I mean,
And this is who I am. I don't, it's not an air, it's actually who I am. But I love when I see people, I see who you are and who you can become. And I feel like I need to inspire some people to be a little bit more than what they are. When I first met you two, I was just like, wow. And the reason why I was like, wow, is because I got to talk to you guys and you guys actually analyze situations and always try to make them better. And
yeah, we can't help it.
yeah, but it's, you'll look at it, you'll be like, analyze the room, and then you'll come back with an assessment of, okay, these are the things that we can do better. And you're always trying to help people. And so that's why I wanted you guys to be a part of our team. I'm like, I love that type of energy. I want to be around that because that inspires other people to be better. And we feed off of each other's energy. Why is it important to build community around entrepreneurship? Because you guys are a part of several different communities. So tell me, why is that important?
So for me, being an entrepreneur has opened a lot of doors for me, which is basically, we talked about it a little bit, but I have two special needs kids and they have a lot of like medical issues and all of that. And being an entrepreneur has meant I can put them first. And it means that I can work with clients who also understand, oh, my child had a seizure. I have to go to the emergency room, as opposed to a 9 to 5 job where I would have been fired by now, definitely. But so it's important to me to do that. And because of that, I really want other people to be able to find the same thing. And part of it is also when the pandemic happened, my mother-in-law, who works for one of the museums in DC, and was like, I'll have a job forever. I work for the government. And then not so much. And so knowing that military spouses especially often find themselves unbalanced and in a situation that they weren't expecting to, that's why to me, specifically within the military spouse community, it's important for me to build that community around entrepreneurship because it's been a solution for me. And I know it could be a solution for a lot of other spouses, whether it's a way to make money off of the things that they love doing, or it's a way to bring more money into their household without having to put their kids into daycare because daycare is ridiculous. Like any of those things, I just want other people to be able to find the freedom that I've found in entrepreneurship. But I know that it's not easy. I know that it can be difficult. And especially like what you said, it's easy for us because you have a built-in partner, right? Like I cannot imagine being a solopreneur and literally doing it all on my own. I've had her the entire time since we've had the business, and we've only had one fight. 15 years, we had one fight, which honestly is amazing to me because that's crazy. To me, I really want to be able to help other people do that, whether it's to be able to start the business of their dreams or just to be able to make some money to fill those gaps that everybody has these days. And I think the best way to do that is having support from people who've been there, having support from people who are trying to do it now. And experience is invaluable in this. And I think that it's really important to be able to connect with these other people and to share that expertise, but to also to be able to share the burden because again, it gets lonely a lot. And that's even with a partner that's with me almost 20. So I definitely, that's why I think that the community is so important and building that community is so important for us.
No, you said there's several different facets to business. You talk about having a website, bookkeeping, customer acquisition, and so on and so forth. Patricia, what is your favorite part of doing business? What part do you just get excited about?
Honestly, helping other businesses. Like, as honestly, it's helping other businesses, but also being able to do things our way. Because there's this one business coach I follow. We've followed her since, oh my gosh, I think since the very beginning. So maybe 2015 or even earlier was when I found her. And she's very, lack of a better word, hippie. And yet she's made millions of dollars and it's been on her terms. And if you go on her website, it's so colorful and cartoony and it evokes this very specific energy. And it's nice to be able to see people who are making money on their terms because it's possible. And being able to connect with new entrepreneurs and letting them know that it's like you can do business your way. Obviously, there are certain things you just have to do a certain way. Please don't get creative with your taxes because I'm not going to be here when you get audited. For the most part, the beauty of being in business is being able to say, okay, this isn't working for me anymore. I want to try something else. Or this kind of work is actually like how we found coaching. Like we like working with our clients, but less so on the website stuff. So we're going to try something else. And just being able to constantly reinvent yourself and seeing where that goes and having the freedom to do that, that to me is one of the best parts of being an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. So we'll end with this question. You guys found VGA. How has it been as far as launching a new business in a community where because most of the organizations out there, they are educating you on the education of business, but not really the execution of business. How has your experience been on the execution of business, which is totally different than learning it in a book and saying your elevator pitch and all of that, to sitting in front of a customer and going, hey, I have this cool thing.
So it's vastly different, right? Because again, I get what you're saying. A lot of these programs, they're much more theoretical, especially because a lot of them try to cater to as many people as possible, which means their advice has to stay general. Meanwhile, being told, oh, you can come to this pop-up shop and just sell to people. And I'm like, that's not something we've done before. But being thrown into it helps you figure out things like price tags and SKU numbers and all of those basic things that you would assume people know, but they may or may not. And so I think for us, because it was something so new to us, it actually works being thrown in the deep end like that because we just force ourselves to do it. But it's definitely helped being obviously around the community like you guys who's also doing the same thing and is also selling things that they're really passionate about, things that they create themselves. And I think that that's another thing that's different about VGA is that a lot of the products are like handmade products by these people. It's not like these mass produced stuff. And so being able to have our products next to people who do the same thing as us, I think is really inspirational, but also really gives you a little bit more courage that you're not like competing with these other brands or whatever. It's just other people within the community that are just trying to do the same thing that you are.
Oh, that's huge. Because there's going to be a time where you're going to have to really figure out the SKUs that go on your bags. And your story will have to be something that people already know when they walk into the store. And so this gives you an opportunity to tell your story early and often and see what works and see what people really think about the product that you have to offer and say, if you keep saying the same thing over and over again and keep getting different reactions, it'll help you with your elevator pitch to when you're selling it to a camera that has no emotion, it helps you big time. And so I just want to thank you guys for being a part of Veterans Growing America and jumping in the deep end. Also being able to help the person to your left and your right with the knowledge and the skills and abilities that you guys already have. And so we're just one big community helping each other with the things that we may or may not know. And that's how we grow.
And I definitely think it's different being in a marketplace where people aren't necessarily seeing each other as competition because
Oh,
not because
yeah.
people are selling different things, but because we are all part of the military community and we want each other to grow, which is not what you would get in like a flea market or
Right.
those kinds of festivals. Because in those things, everybody around you is a competitor who's trying to get the money of the customer. But it doesn't feel that way in a place like VGA, and I think that that obviously sets it apart. And I think that it's a great way to get started in something like this where you can get the experience, you can do the things that you need to do without constantly feeling like everybody around you is just waiting for you to fail.
I was just thinking about it, and we really were lucky to find you when we did, because I promise you that if it wasn't for VGA, we would probably still be spinning our wheels with this whole bag thing. And I just want to say that anybody who's considering becoming a member of VGA, that I highly recommend it because of the support that you get from you guys, but also because me and Lily used to have this trainer, and he had like this perfect balance of knowing when to push, but also knowing your limits, right? So he was never mean about it, but when he could tell that you could do a little bit more, he would ask that of you. And I feel like you give off that same energy, right? Like you would never ask us to do something that you didn't think we could do, but you're always like, I see you're still capable of more, and I'm here to help you make that happen, but I'm going to ask it of you because I know you can deliver. And that's how people get better, right? But I feel like that's something that you do really well that not everybody does. Other people just come off as mean.
First, I just want to make sure that we are in business for ourselves, but not by ourselves. And first of all, I don't want anybody that's a part of this community to have to battle with something that they love. You guys love those bags. I love those bags because y'all love them and because they're really, really nice and it's high quality. But to have to battle other people around you that can help you win, I was like, I'm not having that in the doors of VGA. We do co-opetition. We don't do competition. There's enough room for everybody. You could definitely have fun and be in business at the same time. I don't think that I would be doing it if it wasn't fun. Now there's hard days, but you have someone to be able to lean on with the community. I'd be like, hey, man, I remember that it was about 3 weeks ago. I think everything went wrong that day. And then I talked to one of our vendors and I brought it up and they showed me the shinier side of it. I was like, man, we are doing some amazing things. And so I just want to thank you guys for, again, being a part of it, jumping out there on faith and being a part of the VGA story.
Yes, we are going to go into our closeout, but before we let you guys go, there's probably somebody, a listener or viewer right now that's listening, and they just need some words of encouragement or thoughts of what you guys got going on in your business that could help them get over the hump. And I'll start with you first, Patricia. Do you have any final words for the viewers and listeners?
When things get hard, always go back to your why. So anytime things gets hard with the business, I remember that, like Lily said, this allows us to put our family first, to put ourselves first when it comes time to it, because we have our own set of health issues that pop up every now and again. And sometimes that's all you need, right? So you're overwhelmed. It feels like everything's going wrong. And then you come back to it and you're like, you know what? I did this because I wanted to be able to bring an income to the family without sacrificing my mental health, because sometimes that's what ends up happening. And so you're like, okay, what can I do today to get back on track? Because the mess didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to get fixed overnight. But odds are you can find one thing to start trying to get yourself out of that situation and onto better footing. So get back to your why, reconnect with why you're doing this whole thing, and then you can come back to the situation and be like, okay, so what can I really do right now to get me to a better place? What one small thing can I start with and go from there? But I find that when you go back to why you do what you do, it usually gives you that little push you need to be like, okay, just take a pause, take a beat, and then try to find your next foot forward.
I
That's
love
really
that.
good. Oh, that's really good. How about you, Lily?
So for me, I think it's definitely find something that makes you happy outside of your business. Because the problem with becoming an entrepreneur is you're like, oh, I will work 40 hours a week. You work much more. Okay. When you set your own schedule and you work out like us, you end up working much more than that. So Patricia and I force ourselves to do things like go to concerts, because when we go to the concert, we're not thinking about anything but the concert. We're not thinking about all the emails you have to send, all the things you have to do. And so for us, that's our hobby, is going to concerts and buying albums we can't afford. But for other people, it might be reading, which is actually another thing that I do far too much. But you just need something to be able to step away from your endless to-do list, from all the things that you need to do, and really just be able to turn your brain off. And whatever that may be, I'm sure it's different for everybody, but it's not healthy to work all the time. We've learned that lesson the hard way, and often you're already at burnout before you realize that you need to make a change. And so I definitely advise you, even as you're getting started in entrepreneurship, to make sure that there's always that one thing that's gonna pull you out of it and that you can focus on. And family and housework and stuff don't count. Okay, you're gonna do that stuff, by the way. Something that you actually enjoy and something that can help you, especially during the hard times, something that you can return to and be like, okay, I'll be happy for a little while at least. And then I'll go back to all of these things that I just did not want to deal with.
Y'all
That's
remind me.
good.
Yeah, y'all remind me. When I was in the military, I used to beat all the younger runners. This is going somewhere now. This is going somewhere. I used to beat all the younger runners because they started out in a sprint, and at the end, they didn't have anything else to give. And they would give it their all the first mile, mile and a half. And that last half a mile, when it matters the most, they didn't have nothing else to give because they just gave everything. And I started out in a steady pace, and I continued to run at a steady pace until I saw the finish line. And I would catch up to the young guys, and then I would talk to them while I was running with them. And I would talk to them, and I would call them, and I would make them look back at me, because when you're looking back, you can't run forward as fast. And then I would take off at the end because they couldn't catch me, and I would beat them. And so I say all of that to say is that when you're close to your goal, it gets really hard. And there's going to be a voice in your head calling you to look back. And if you look back and you pay attention to that voice, it will be hard to make it to the goal. And so for those of you that are out there listening right now, there's somebody out there that's going to be talking to you when you're close to your goal, telling you to quit because they want you to be back there with them. And they're going to try to run past you. They're going to try to run past you to the goal and steal your mojo.
That's really good.
Not allow them to do that.
I definitely think too many people work hard at something and give up right at the very end because they've been through so much. But sometimes all you needed was just to push a little bit further and you get everything that you want. Patricia and I are definitely going through that right now.
Right. Who was it that said they're like, don't take advice from people whose life you don't want? Because I'm like, why would I take advice about running a business from people who've never run one? No offense, but
No offense. No offense.
I don't understand. Why would you be giving me advice on something you've never been through? You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, and I'm not saying that failures don't count, because you learn when you fail. But if you've never even attempted it, then I'm not sure why we're even having this conversation, right? So if somebody comes to me and says, oh, I ran a business for this amount of time and then it didn't work out. Oh, but I'm sure I could learn a lot from you. because you were there and you learned a lot even when things weren't working out. But if this isn't something you've ever attempted, then I'm not here seeking your input. You know what I mean?
Please and thank you.
It's like we are not accepting feedback right now. So
The suggestion box is closed.
right.
Hey, so how does one get a hold of you guys and the bags? What are ways people can reach out to you guys?
We are online at likhakawayan.com, but also because we know it's hard to spell, it's likhabags.com. It's easy if you can spell that. And we're also on Instagram, also under Likha Kawayan, and also on Facebook. But also, Patricia and I are both on LinkedIn, and we're always happy to connect with people there. So yeah.
You could also
Awesome.
find them on the Veterans Growing America directory.
Directory. I love it. Donnell, how do people continue to support Veterans Growing America?
Hey, so there's several ways, but I'm going to give you all the 3 easiest ways. Number 1, go to our website, and I don't care what you're doing that weekend, find your way to our store, right? I don't know what you're doing during the week, but if you see an event that we're putting on at VGA, become a part of it. If you're a veteran, military spouse, or dependent, become a part of our community. Get your business listed on our directory. I would say get the highest plan. That way you can tell your story on our site and then put your events on there. We are stronger together. So you can find us at veteransgrowingamerica.com or Veterans Growing America on all of your social media platforms where you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And then come to the store and do what? Shop, baby.
Shop, baby. I love it. Lily, Patricia, thank you guys so much for joining us. We truly, truly appreciate your presence.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Definitely our pleasure. We are over and out.